These are the Chat City interviews from 103.2 Preston FM.
Right, third guest of the morning, Mr Minibridge, also known as David Adelman, is with me in the studio. And David is a former lawyer and teacher of foreign languages and bridge to adults and children. He has created a simplified version of the game Bridge that can be taught in literally minutes to school staff and in a matter of hours to children as young as 7 or 8. So, David, a very good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, Hughie.
Nice to meet you.
And you too.
So, Mr Minibridge, then. So, how did this all come about, then, before we actually talk about the Minibridge?
Cast your mind back to about the year 2000, and I was asked to go to a school in Manchester to trial a version of Bridge called Minibridge, which the Europeans had created for use in schools. And I went in and I realised that, in fact, it still wasn't simple enough for 10-year-old children. So I just created my own version, which took about 5 minutes because it just needed some basic simplification. And then went round schools in the Manchester area for the next few years, just seeing how they would respond to it. Then things started to fizzle, because the enthusiasm for new things isn't sustained unless someone is sustaining it.
Yeah, I can understand that, particularly within the education system.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, we'll go there in a few minutes. And just as I was about to give up, funding came through from a private source. So this was around about 2008. I then developed some software to go with it, with the help of someone who was a bridge player and an IT specialist. So after 4 years of working with funding, we've got quite a product, which we can use. However, so that's the good news, but the bad news is that the education system is being strangled from top downwards. I'm not going to blame
Mr Gove.
I'm not going to blame anyone in particular, but Mr Gove is just the last straw, shall we say. And he would have children go in at 7:30, stay till 5:30. Cut down on holidays. I could go. I'm not going to go down the political road because we don't have time. I'd love to, but so basically, I'm having to withdraw from schools because I'm sick and tired of knocking on school doors and saying, "Please let me in. I've got an amazing activity for you." So I'm creating my own environments away from schools, and they will initially be attractive to home-educated children. But in fact, if I do them on Saturdays, they'll be available to all children as well. And that's something else which I've devised, which is known as PLAY, Positive Learning Activities for Youngsters.
Right. So if we have, and I know that we do have, and home education, of course, is on the increase in this country, and of course that's another hot topic throughout probably the last 2 decades about home education, etc. And the fact that now we have academies and not really through the LA route, does it mean that you have to knock on individual doors when you've been trying to discuss this with schools?
Well, I sent out emails. I've long time ago, I got tired of knocking on doors. I certainly don't knock on doors physically. I may make the odd phone call. I may have made the odd phone call over the years. But it's. I know a magician who works with schools, and we both have the same problem. When we call a school up, we've compared notes on this. We call a school up, and they ask you, who should I say? Where are you from? From. The adjective or the preposition they use is from. My name is David Adelman, and they say from. And they assume that you're from huge corporation that has got all the relevant licenses and permissions and protocols in place to go into school with no questions asked. But in fact, what he is and what I am are individuals with creative ideas and who are simply trying to express ourselves and at the same time help the young generation of children coming through to express themselves. And that doesn't compute with the systemic approach, with the kind of sterile, there I go getting political, sterile systemic approach to education, which is not even education in the traditional sense. The Latin educare, which forms the basis of the word education, means to bring out, not to put in.
That's right.
We should not be inputting anything into children, let alone nonsense data, but we should just be allowing them to express themselves. So this is the theme, and we're both agreed that it's a waste of time knocking on school doors. So I've stopped. He has had the help of a retired head who's got him into a few schools. So I've stopped, and now we're joining forces. He's one of my portfolio facilitators, because the list of activities that are going to be on offer are quite impressive. Do you want me to read a few out?
Well, I was just going to say, tell us then, and probably that's where we move on to that. How different then is Minibridge to Bridge, and the benefits from your perspective of Minibridge?
Well, Minibridge is Bridge includes a language, which is the auction. And like any language, it takes several years to even begin to master. So in the current climate of instant gratification and instant learning, nobody wants to spend years doing anything. Or certainly no one likes the prospect of having to spend years doing anything. So if you offer them something that's diluted, it's more attractive. But Minibridge has all the cognitive challenges of Bridge. Really, every single one. But it has this added attraction of instant availability. And as a game that's simplified, it's accessible. The youngest player I've ever had playing was age 5.
5?
Yeah. And you can't say that about Bridge, although there are some child prodigies at Bridge from Bridge playing families. But the idea is that it's accessible to all, and it brings people together. When you something amazing happens when you sit around the same table. It's like our great grandparents knew this, that they were all happier, I feel, than we are, because they played cards together. It's not quite as simple as that, but really the card playing that they did symbolised the fact that they were happy just to sit together, to freely associate, to play, to have fun, to giggle, smile at each other. Making eye contact is going out of fashion. You have to make eye contact at the bridge table. So if I can just give you a brief idea of how Minibridge has gone, rather than game itself. Bridge, when I went into schools 12 years ago, the concept, I was asked by the Bridge Association, and their thinking, which was fair enough, Bridge is a game to improve maths and left brain problem solving. And it is, to a point. But over the years, what I've seen, I've been allowed into schools, like Doctor Who in a sea of Daleks, right? I've been allowed in, and because I have this TARDIS, I can escape. I can fizzle into thin air if I want to. I can't get out of some schools fast enough because the atmosphere is just awful. But I've seen a need for Minibridge to shift the goalposts and to become more purely a social and emotional forum where people can, like I say, make eye contact, make friends, learn to get on with others, learn to not to be so harsh on themselves. I used to be a teacher of Bridge to adults, and I had to give up because they weren't getting it. And it's not that they weren't getting the game, but they weren't getting the idea that you learn by trial and error. You don't learn by me talking about the game. You learn by playing the game.
Well, I was just going to say that. So how are we saying it is by playing the game, or it's by the socialisation of playing the game?
It's both.
Both?
It's absolutely both, but particularly in Minibridge. Because Minibridge, there are less things to learn, and so you can focus on having fun, and at the same time taking on the challenges, which I don't ignore. I have these demonstrations in which I take them through how to make their thinking more coherent for Bridge strategy. There must have been written 100,000 books on Bridge strategy, and the beauty of Minibridge is that you gain access to that. It's almost like Sudoku for Bridge. You gain access to the Sudoku aspect of Bridge simply by being taught the Minibridge rules. So it's a win-win situation. You gain a lifelong activity, and you also gain access to all the challenges that have been set by other people over the years. So but my favourite, my personal passion is still Bridge. I'm not a Minibridge player. I'm a Minibridge facilitator. Right. I personally am a Bridge player.
And playing Minibridge, I mean, you mentioned a child of a very young age there. We're talking about children of that age, of any capacity. I can't think of the right word to play this. We're not talking just about children whose IQ is off the Richter scale, are we?
Well, there's lots of myths about Bridge.
Yeah, that's why I was
it's for
wanting to
rocket
ask
scientists.
this. Yeah.
It's for rocket scientists and PhD graduates. All you need to be able to do to play Bridge and certainly Minibridge, is sit still and count to 40. If you can sit still and count to 40, you're in.
Yes.
And if you can't sit still and count to 40, you'll certainly learn how to, because you will want to. You'll have the motivation to, because everybody else is doing it. Can I tell you a story about, there's one particular school I went to about 2 years ago. And I think it's relevant to the question you've just asked me, because I went in and it was shades of Hammer House of Horror. Because I went in, I got there at 5 to 9, and the caretaker said to me in a sort of sinister voice, sort of League of Gentlemen type voice, he says, what are you here for? And I said, I'm here to work with year 5. He goes, oh, year 5. He says, good luck with that, boy. And I said, don't give me that. I said, what I'm doing is fun and the children love it. So anyway, I went in, and unusually for me, I normally work with large groups, 2 or 3 or 4 classes, entire year groups, because I have a simultaneous learning system. So, but this particular school had just given me 1 class. And after a couple of hours, the class teacher decided that she'd seen enough. She was happy. The children were happy and relaxed. And she went off to do what teachers do, which is mark books or go and have a political meeting or go and do some shopping. Right? Once they've got someone else that they trust in charge, they're off. So I carried on, and they left me with the TA, which is teaching assistant for people who don't understand school language. And the TA turned to me and said, David, I must tell you, we have one boy here who has got all the labels and he's got all the medication, and he kicks off every class. The label she gave me was ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And I said, naively, could you point him out, please? And she said, no. She said, shades of League of Gentlemen again. She said, oh, no, you'll find out soon enough. Well, that was after 2 hours, and I was there all afternoon as well, and I never found out which boy had ADHD. All the children equally engaged in Minibridge, and it levels the playing field.
Mm. And that was the reason for my question in a way. And there are different modules, are there? Of Minibridge, different modules that children can go through.
Yes, there are. Well, again, it's the strategic planning for bridge. So it is broken down into various techniques, and you could pick up a bridge book and have a look at these things. But I have software that enables children. We'll soon put that software, I think, on a website where they can perhaps go online and do these puzzles. But I have broken it down into digestible chunks. So when I do the trainings, which I've got a group starting locally at Leyland soon. This is a home ed group. Right. And they're going to have, they don't know it yet, but they're going to have, that's half the fun. Yes. They don't know, but they're going to have 2 sessions of introduction to Minibridge with very little strategy. And then we're going to add on the PLAY activities, such as singing, dancing, percussion, drumming, etc. Because I want Minibridge and Bridge to be part of something bigger. Something that would have helped me grow and thrive when I was 10 or 15. I was playing bridge at that age, but I'm a musical person. I wasn't doing music, and that is shameful. Right. I'd love to blame somebody. I really would. I used to blame my parents, but I've stopped blaming them. So I don't want the young generation of children, super gifted children coming through, to have to go through what I went through, which was to deny my gifts and talents just to fit into the system. It's just not on. Right.
And that's why I was quite intrigued when I was reading, the stuff that I've got in front of me. School can be fun, but I rarely address some of the big questions like, how do I learn what I need to learn? How do I learn to think for myself? How do I learn what kind of person I am? All fascinating stuff I love to look at.
Well, let me just, I think we have time. I'm just going to read that it's a list of just one word. So it's a one-word list.
Yes, go on.
Which I have pinched unashamedly from some Facebook site or somewhere. I don't know. Anyway, it's a list of some of the things that are completely overlooked or severely neglected at school. And here's the list. creativity, critical thinking, resilience, motivation, persistence, curiosity, question asking, humour, forgiveness, endurance, reliability, enthusiasm, civic-mindedness, self-awareness, self-discipline, empathy, leadership, compassion. That's a big one. I've written a book about that, Triangle of Compassion. More about that in a minute. Courage, sense of beauty, sense of wonder, resourcefulness, spontaneity, humility. I could go on, but that was the end of his list or her list.
Whoever.
So, and most of these things, and the thing about me personally is that I have been into enough classrooms and staff rooms to know, not just to feel or believe, but to know that these things are missing on the school curriculum.
Yes.
I know that.
And
I've seen
self-esteem, a biggie.
And self-esteem, yeah.
Out there.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, David, I'd love to talk more. I've got 3 minutes to the end of the programme. Where can people find out more about this and about you and about what's happening here?
Well, if they the PLAY website is not live yet, so if they want information sooner rather than later, they can go on www.mrminibridge.com. Find out more about Minibridge and about what I'm doing. Over the next few days, literally over the next few days, I will be uploading more information about play, more information about homeschooling, home ed groups, because as I start work with the home ed groups, I can then upload their details, take photos, take videos, and people can see Minibridge in action at these groups. They can email me via that website. The play website will be p-l-a-y.org.uk, but it's not live yet. But
right.
you can get a link. There'll be a Facebook page going live this week for play. Okay. Lots happening, but the basic hub at the moment is mrminibridge.com.
Brilliant. Well, I think we shall have to get you back in at that time then and find out more about this and how it's going. We'll have to get you back in again, David. So thank you for coming in this morning.
Thank you very much for having me, Hugh, and I've really enjoyed the chance to air my thoughts and feelings and experiences.
Yes, I think we could many more when we talk about education there, David. But thank you for coming in.
Thanks for listening to our podcasts. But don't forget, Chat City is live weekdays from 10 till noon on 103.2 Preston FM.